Hi there, this is Linda and welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you're new here. In this video, I'm putting together my Project Life spread for the week of August 28th through September 3rd, 2023. And this was actually a very busy week for me. I took some days off of work. I went to the racetrack that is kind of local to where I live. And then I took a short weekend getaway to Long Island, which is a couple hours south from where I live. So let's go ahead and dive right in. Okay, so for this week, I decided to not work with a kit specifically, but instead I pulled this paper from the July Stories by the Month kit from Ali Edwards. This is a paper that has currently reading, loving, watching, listening, cooking, finding, struggling, wishing, and working. And I decided what I'm going to do is use this as my jumping off point for this week. I'm also going to pull products in from my stash to complete the week, but this is really kind of going to be my jumping off point and my main journaling for the week. So this was a super busy week. I had, just like a normal week the first half of the week. And then I took the day off of work one day and went to the Saratoga racetrack, which is a horse racetrack that's kind of local to us. And I saved this piece of paper from that. And then I went on a quick weekend trip to Long Island, which is a couple hours south of where I live, to go to a concert. And to the beach. So I have quite a few things going on this week. And I could tell a much longer story about the events of this weekend, but I decided I'm not going to do that. Instead, I'm going to just focus on these stories. A lot of these stories are documented elsewhere in, my personal album or in my planner, my journal. So I'm not too worried about needing to include them all here. So I have the back of my page protector from last week, which if you watched that video, you would see that I created this page protector myself to have 3 4x6 pockets and 3 3x4 pockets in this configuration here, which is not a page protector that exists that I know of. I used a 12x12 page protector and cropped it down to make this page protector. And if you're curious more about that, you can see that in that process video, how I talk through that process. And I will link that up the eye. So I selected 3 photos from this week. I have the racetrack, the concert I went to, and then the boardwalk down on Long Island. And so these 3 things are things that I did while I was down there. So I wanted to include those. And then I also printed out a variety of 3x4 photos. And then I'll have to figure out where I want to include these 9 things. So I have this picture of my food from one day. I have the beach reading. I have a drink from the concert, another photo from the concert, a pumpkin photo, and a screenshot of FaceTiming with Summer. This is shortly after she moved out to go to college. I have quite a lot here going on. I also have this. So I need to figure out, and I saved my room tickets. These might not room cards. These might not end up getting in here because they aren't very pretty. But maybe, we'll see. I do also need to fill these pockets in. So I'm going to go ahead and cut these out and kind of figure out where I want to put them if they go with certain things, with some of the photos, or if I want them to be on their standalone cards, and figure out how many things I need to fill in the rest of the pockets. And then I will go over to my stash and see what coordinates and what will fill in the gaps. I know I'm going to need something here for a title card. I probably won't use one of these for that, but I'm not sure yet. So I'm going to go ahead and put you guys on fast forward and cut these out and go from there. Okay, so the first thing I did was cut out all of these journaling spots. I love these prompt papers like this that are coming in the kits this year from Ali Edwards. Both the Stories by the Month and the Story kits have these 6x8. Well, they're larger than 6x8. They are the outside of the page protector size of 6x8, which I believe is 7 by 8 1/4. So I am using these often to cut them up to put them into pocket pages. Although I do like to keep them outside of the page protector sometimes and in their full form, or I use them in traditional layouts. I do like to be able to use all of the products in pocket pages if possible. And almost always these pages are adaptable to use into pocket pages. And I was super excited to be able to do that here and use that page kind of as a jumping off point as the only like new product in this spread. Besides these cards, I do end up bringing in a few things from my stash, but these are really the main thing on this spread. So it took a little bit of time to cut them out, and I cut them like they're a little bit wonkier on the edges, which is fine. It's kind of fun looking. But I left a little bit of the blue pattern around them rather than cutting just on the white border, so they kind of have a border themselves. And I'm just rearranging them on the spread, kind of trying to think about where I want them and what stories I want to tell with each card. I do have some that are going to go onto empty pockets by themselves, and some are going to go onto photos and other cards with photos. You'll see as it comes together, but I don't treat them all the same in the spread, which I think I really love. I don't want them to all be identical. You could definitely treat them all the same, put them all going the same direction and fully journal on them, but I wanted to kind of mix it up a bit. I decided to use this Naira paper, which is the New York Racing Authority, I believe, it was a paper from my pretzel that I got when I went to the racetrack, and I cropped it down to 3x4 as a background for one of those journaling spots. But I have quite a few other pockets that need paper. So I went through my 6x8 pattern paper stash, and some of these are ones that kind of open up. Those are from Cocoa Daisy. Some of these other ones are from Citrus Twist, but most of them are from Ali Edwards. And I ended up selecting this one that is from Cocoa Daisy. I really wanted to use it to be my background for a lot of those spots. I also pulled over off camera. There's a 3x4 card you see in the bottom left-hand corner that has a numbered list. You heard me talk about in the beginning of the video how I wasn't going to do any additional journaling, but I decided doing a numbered list of all of the stops and things that we did over the long weekend would make a lot of sense, just a factual-based bullet list. So that's what that card is for. And now I'm going through some other cards from my stash to select one to use as a title card. And I'm just trying to get one that coordinates with everything. I do end up going with this older one from Studio Calico that is kind of like a sun shape on blue. It's on like a light blue. And I think I love the way it looks with the rest of the spread. It's kind of unfortunate that it has the rounded corners, but it is what it is, and I do want to still use the card. I'm cropping down this pattern paper now. I don't know why these papers come folded like this, but that's how the papers come from Cocoa Daisy. If you're wondering, I'm not a subscriber to Cocoa Daisy. I purchased a few of their kits as one-offs a couple times because they were very pretty, but I found their kits to be very inconsistent and pretty expensive. So I haven't really looked at them in a while. So these are much older products, maybe at least a year or two old, possibly older than that. So I like that it's double-sided and the two sides coordinate together, so I'm able to kind of flip and flop these around to decide what patterns I want, and I end up going with the floral pattern for 3 of the pockets and going with the blue pattern for the background for that photo of the screenshot of FaceTime with my daughter. I'm just rearranging everything because I don't want things to look so, in line, I guess is the right way to put it. I don't want the 2 floral cards next to each other. I don't want cards that have the journaling spots all in a row together. So I ended up coming up with this layout, which I do think this is what the final layout looks like. And then I'm pulling out my blue chipboard shapes from my chipboard organization. If you're curious about my chipboard organization, I will link that for you up at the eye. But what I have is just in this top drawer here, I have all my chipboard organized, and I want to just kind of use up some of it. So all of the more general sentiments are organized by color. So these are all the blue ones, and I thought the blue went really well with the colors in the spread between the beach and the sky. There's a lot of sky photos here, so there's a lot of blue. And then, of course, the cards and paper that I had selected were also blue. I also have that strip of pattern paper on that photo with my cat right there. I'm picking it up right now. What I decide to do is crop this photo down so that it's no longer 3x4. It's really just a photo of my cat loafing in the hallway or the entryway to my house. I'm sitting at my craft desk looking out into the entryway when I took that photo, and it's just super cute that he's just loafing there in the hallway. But I don't need all of that photo of the hall. And I wanted to kind of break this page up because I have those 3 4x6 photos all next to each other. I didn't want another photo touching them. So what I did was I took the scrap of paper from the original 6x8 paper that I cropped down that had all of the currently journaling spots that are kind of my jumping off point for this spread. And I used that as a base for that photo just to break a little bit between the 2 photos on the left-hand side of the spread. I added a chipboard on there that says super normal day, just along that line. And I added a few tiny attacher staples. I'm not sure if I did that yet on the video, but I do end up adding those on there. And I really like how the simplicity of that card looks. For my title card here, I just stamped the dates, and then I selected another one of the chipboard pieces from my stash of blue chipboards here and added it on there. That one says, remember this. And I just love the colors together. It's just a super calm, nice looking color scheme. So on this photo of the racetrack, I had originally had one of the journaling spots on there, but decided I didn't really want to cover a lot of it. The same thing happens for the boardwalk down below. I end up not putting journaling spots on all of these and just putting one on here from the concert. I think it ended up being a little crooked, so I tried to tear it back up. It does not come up, so I just have to leave it as is. And it is what it is. I think it's a little bit crooked, but the wonky cutting, I guess, makes it look like it's on purpose. But I just added a little bit of journaling here. So this one says currently listening. So I thought that was perfect for the concert. So I added some journaling about who we went to see and where. And then I used my rolling date stamp to add the date. And then I add a word phrase strip that says summertime and one of the chipboard pieces from my stash. The word phrase strips are also from my stash. I pulled over some white in a light blue sheet. I don't think I end up using any of the light blue ones, but I liked having those to pull from to layer with a lot of these chipboard pieces. When I was looking through the blue chipboard pieces here, you can see a lot of them are like word phrase strips themselves. And I thought that they would look very good layered with a word phrase sticker. So you have the different dimensions in addition to the different colors on there. And then I'm using my tiny attacher to staple this down. Of course, it's already adhered down. The staples are just more for decoration and add a little bit of texture. So you saw that I cropped that journaling card off that said currently listening on that photo of the concert. A lot of these journaling cards, I do end up cropping them down so that they don't cover up too much of my photo. And I do that in a couple different ways you'll end up seeing as I put this spread together. But for some of them, I'm putting them on 3x4 pattern paper. I end up doing 3 of them this way. And these 3 follow the same treatment where I'm putting the journaling spot on this floral paper. I'm adding a word phrase strip and a chipboard piece. I think one of them I don't add a word phrase strip, but they all have some little word embellishments and then some longer, not really longer, but longer journaling than on the other ones. This one says currently working, so I'm just journaling about what I'm working on at work right now and how I worked this week, Monday through Wednesday, and then took the rest of the week off. This is going into Labor Day weekend. Labor Day is the following Monday, so I did put that in the following week. Also because my weekend getaway, I went from Friday to Sunday, so I was already back by Monday. So I didn't feel like it needed to be on the same spread, but this is Labor Day weekend, which is why I'm traveling and stuff like that and taking some time off. So for this one here, I really love how this one came out. So this one says currently reading, and I had this photo of my book while I was reading at the beach, which was just perfect. And honestly, it's one of the reasons why I selected this week to use this paper when I picked this week and I knew I wanted to work with this currently prompt page. I had already lived this week. So I'd already taken all my photos And so I wasn't able to go around and, take photos of things that I thought fit the theme. So it just kind of worked out that I had some perfect photos for certain things, such as this one for reading. But I didn't want to cover up a ton of the photo with that journaling spot, and I didn't have a ton to say. So I just cropped it off and had it be kind of like a half rounded rectangle on there, and I added some of the word phrase strips, two chipboard ones and one of the sticker ones on there, and I just love how it came out. I think that's my favorite card on this spread, that beach one with my book. I'm moving on to this numbered list here where I'm just writing out all of the things that we did on our trip. So it was just a quick weekend getaway. We drove down Friday morning and then we came back Sunday morning, and we did a couple of different things. So I'm just looking at my Hobonichi cousin over off screen to make note of the different things that we did. I do keep track of those on my weekly spreads on my Hobonichi cousin. If you're curious to find out more about that, you can see my most recent flip through. I will link that for you. But what I do is generally just write down some notes about what's going on during the week. So when I am scrapbooking this much later, it is now October that I'm putting the spread together. And I was able to kind of remember everything that we did. I didn't do any feeling-based journaling here. I could do some feeling-based journaling. At this point in time, it's still fresh enough in my memory that I can remember what happened, but I don't really want to put that on here. This is more of a fact-based numbered list of just what did we do? And you might wonder what I'm saying, why I'm saying we, if you know me, and you know that I am recently an empty nest single person, but I did want to just make note that I am seeing someone, and that's why I mean we, but I am not yet including him on my Instagram, which is why there's a sticky note, or my YouTube, so that's why there's a sticky note over his face there. Just in case you were wondering about that. I know people get curious on the internet. So anyways, back to what I'm doing. I'm just adding in some journaling, and because I didn't pre-plan what was going to be each of these 10 numbered items, I'm kind of going back and adding things and just making sure that I have everything that I want, and making the trip be exactly 10 points. You can really spread something out like this. For example, number 2 was a sushi dinner on Friday. I put the restaurant on there, and then we went to Baskin Robbins afterwards. We met up with a few different people while we were down there, so we did dinner and ice cream with some people on Tuesday, or number 2, not on Tuesday, on Friday. It's the number 2 there. So I put them both as number 2 because I wanted to include more things, but I could have listed those out as 2 separate items. And that's how I got what happened to be exactly 10 things. So this right here is a scratch paper. It was a misprint from an older project that I have in my drawer of scrap papers. And I'm just using it so I can crop down and use the back, which is 3x4, a white piece of just the back of photo paper, so that this piece of Naira paper here can be adhered on it. It was a super thin paper. It was a wrapper from a soft pretzel. So it's very, I want that decoration, but it's too flimsy to go into a pocket on its own. So I added it on top of that card just to give it a little bit of sturdiness. For my journaling on this one, so this one says currently watching, and I was originally going to journal just about going to the racetrack, but there's some other things that I was watching this week. So what I decided to do was do a bulleted list. So I used my Zig dot marker, which is linked down in my description box below, of one of my most frequent supplies. And I'm just making a bullet list of the various things I'm watching this week. I went to the Saratoga racetrack on Thursday, so I put that on there. I was currently watching Sex and the City. There was some storm coverage on Tuesday because there was a storm down in Florida, so I was watching that. And then on Sunday night, I watched Forgetting Sarah Marshall, so I made a note of a Sunday night movie night on there. And I like that the collection of putting those various stories that all have to do with watching on one card, they're just various things that happened during this week. On to this one with my daughter. So this is a screenshot of FaceTiming with her. So again, I'm collecting stories about my daughter for this week. So this is currently finding. So I'm framing this from finding time to see her and different ways to connect. So I mentioned how I FaceTimed with her one night, and then also how I went to go see her on Sunday. Once I got back from Long Island, I delivered some stuff to her. So I made some notes of that on this card. Again, two sort of unrelated stories that happened on different days, but they're both about finding time to connect with my daughter now that she's out at college. And then I adhered that down and cropped it off so that it's not covering up her face, and added it onto the side there. Moving on to this one. This one says currently cooking, which I thought was kind of funny because usually currently lists would say currently eating, but I do a lot of cooking, so it made perfect sense for me to say currently cooking and journal about what I was cooking. So I have this photo of my dinner from earlier in the week. I think it was from Monday night. I made grilled panzanella, which is one of my favorite summertime meals. So I took this photo of it, and I was able to kind of journal about how I was currently cooking a lot of fresh summertime meals and what I specifically made in this photo. I considered adding a word phrase strip on here, but I decided against it and decided to add one of the chipboard circles. It says yes on it. Again, these are just generic blue chipboard pieces, and I'm just trying to use up some of my stash. And they're all from different sets, from different manufacturers. Most of them are from Ali Edwards, but I do end up using at least one from somewhere else. I have some from Studio Calico, some from Freckled Fawn. I'm sure some from other manufacturers throughout the years because I have been collecting supplies for a very long time. So moving on to this card here, I'm going to follow that same formula that I did on that card on the left-hand side, where I'm putting one of these journaling spots onto one of these 3x4 patterned papers and journaling. So this one says currently loving. So this week, my December daily supplies arrived. If you are unsure what I'm talking about or wondering why I got those so early, I was lucky enough to be invited to do a feature on the Ali Edwards blog during the month of September, sharing my setup and prep and some planning ideas for December daily for 2023. So I got my entire collection much earlier than everyone else. This week was the launch of the December daily products when they went live for people to order, but mine were able to arrive. So I journaled about those arriving and how excited I was about this opportunity, even though I didn't work on it yet this week because of all the travel and everything. I actually had worked on some the week prior, but I was able to just include that story on this week with that currently loving card. I did have a couple of other ones of these journaling cards left. One said currently wishing and one said currently struggling. And I really, when I was thinking about what stories to tell for these, I kind of thought of the same story for both of them. And I decided to use the currently wishing one to frame it from a more positive angle. But both of these are about the fact that I am very kind of overwhelmed in life generally. I'm so busy all the time. I'm so exhausted. I just have a lot going on. And I am wishing for a much slower pace now that I am an empty nester. High school was fun for my daughter, but it was a very stressful time for me. And I'm kind of excited for this new chapter. So I could definitely have framed that from the struggling perspective, but I decided to be more positive and use the currently wishing. And I end up not using the currently struggling journaling spot at all. So I only end up using 8 of the 9 on this spread, which is totally fine. I will put that into my stash. I might use it some time on another stash busting spread, or I might end up just throwing it away, which is totally fine. I was able to use 8 of the 9, which is plenty for me. On this photo here, I don't have any more journaling to do, but I am layering some word phrase strips and one of the chipboard pieces. Oh, see, I do use one of the blue ones here. So I added a few different things here to go along with this photo of my drink at the concert. And I don't know if you've heard of this drink. It says Liquid Death. It's in a can. It's actually water in a can that's made to kind of look like a beer, which is amazing. I'd never heard of it or seen it before there. And now I've seen it in Target now, but I thought it was super fun. So I wanted to include that in my spread. And I didn't have a story to tell about it. I feel like you can kind of tell from it because it does say mountain water on it. But I wanted to reference that in this spread. So I'm putting away the rest of the chipboard pieces that I didn't use. I was able to make a decent dent in that stash, which is great. And then I'm just going to go ahead and slip everything in the pocket. I love how the spread came together. I love that I used the blues to tie things together, even though they're from different manufacturers and different places in my stash. And I love that I was able to use those currently journaling spots to tell the story of my week. I did have to trim a few of these cards down to get them to fit into the pockets, and I don't end up putting those last two in because I want to take that sticky note off and add some journaling that I'm going to end up blurring out on there. But most of this spread I am sharing with you, and you'll be able to see a picture of the finished spread at the very end of this video. But I'm just going ahead and slipping everything in the pocket. I really love how this one turned out. I'm so thrilled to have another week in my project life and to have been able to dig into my stash. I hope that you enjoyed this video. And here is that look at that completed spread. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them down below. And as always, I so appreciate you being here, and I appreciate all of the feedback that you provide to me. And I hope to see you guys all in the next one. Bye.